Heston, thank you so much for your time.
Hey, g'day, Chris. Great to be with you and thanks for having me on.
Good to have you with us. If you're a vet, you'd be forgiven for thinking that in recent years it's been a mad and very destructive time.
Yeah, Chris, look, I officially left the military at the start of 2019 and I look back with just realising how ignorant I was. It is an incredible space to be in, from appreciating the agendas that have been out there and really continue to be reinforced through to, just this last year, everything from the collapse of Afghanistan through to, like you said, the Royal Commission now underway. And I'm always worried that this creates a very negative stigma around service and our veterans, but it's actually an incredible opportunity for our veterans to now demonstrate our value and our quality back here and help set those conditions for generations moving forward.
I want to start with the Brereton inquiry. 13 won't be investigated. You'd have to think that not all 6 left will be charged. Talk about a beat-up.
Oh, Chris, and I've said this beforehand, our nation has to learn from this disaster, from how it has destabilised us in our national strategic standing, through to our reputational damage. What was the benefit of the Brereton inquiry being made public before it had passed through our legal processes and met the rules of evidence? Not only have we destroyed the commitment to the rule of law and presumption of innocence, but as far as our veterans have been concerned, these members who have now been found to have no case to answer for, their families, who I met with a family earlier in the year, was that worried by media engaging with them that they sent their children across the country during a pandemic and have since been found to have no case to answer for. This is terrible stuff, and I've said it lightly. I've said it before, not lightly at all. We have to fight harder here at home this last year than we have had to overseas.
Yeah, Afghanistan too. How wrong was America's dysfunctional departure from Kabul in light of what we have now, mass starvation and trading in young girls? It is all wrong. Yeah,
it's really, really hard to see, and I've spoken on Sky a few times about that. We were so good at deploying over there. Our servicemen and women were so good with what we did over there. And then the withdrawal did not have anywhere near the level of planning, dedication and execution that it should have. And it doesn't matter how you rock up, it's how you leave, and how we've left is a terrible mess and quite a stain on our legacy there.
Terrible legacy. The ABC did a terrible hatchet job on the November platoon, which you commanded in Afghanistan, all based on allegations by a single US soldier, but the timelines were all wrong. Explain that to our audience.
Yeah, Chris, so October last year, the story actually came to air 21st of October 2020, which was the 8-year anniversary at the death of Corporal Scott Smith, who was a Special Operations Engineer member of my platoon, November platoon, who died in Afghanistan in 2012. And the story, published by Mark Quillisi, Alexandra Blucher and Dan Oakes, was a ear witness report of a single US Marine helicopter crew member who said that during a nighttime operation in Helmand province in Afghanistan in 2012, heard us call in for our extraction with 7 prisoners. We're told we could only fit 6. So he then heard a pop on the radio while he was thousands of feet away flying in his helicopter and did not see anything. And then 8 years later, when approached by the ABC, claimed that that was us apparently executing a prisoner so they could fit on board the helicopter. Since then, and as I've maintained for the last 13 months, not only was there no mission into Helmand, Afghanistan, where November platoon took 6 prisoners, there were no deployments into Helmand, Afghanistan during the months of June, July, or even August by November platoon. And as Mark Willesee put his Freedom of Information request into the Department of Defence just the other week, after we pressured him on this, requesting the dates between the 1st of June and the 31st of July 2012. So as has been revealed, this story is not only infactual, it's impossible. And now it's about accountability from our taxpayer-funded media outlet that has otherwise persecuted us for the last 13 months.
And talk about a lack of investigation. The ABC even claimed there was a defence investigation into that platoon. No, says the Defence Department. They've said it twice already during the week.
Absolutely. Ministers have stood up and said that. And so we have launched this petition that's been accepted by the Parliament House, petition number 3637. And within 2 days, Chris, we've already had 15,000 Australians sign up to call for an independent review into this story.
Great. Great. Now, I want to find out a little bit more about you, Heston Russell, because that's what I do on the virtual couch here. Mum came up with the name Heston, did she?
Yeah, Mum had a crush on Charlton Heston, and I appreciate you probably know who that is,
yes.
Chris, but many of my generation do not. They keep thinking that I'm named after the chef, who was actually 15 years old when I was born, but yeah, thank God she didn't call me Charlton.
Yes. Now, given how fit you are now, were you really the fat kid at school?
Oh, thank you for touching on this. Yes, I was very obese back at school. I hated my high school. I was the fat kid. I still emotionally eat these days, but I've definitely developed a great insight into what it feels like to be that person, and also how important that sort of discipline is. But that is a place I never want to go back to, that's for sure.
Yeah, I could imagine. Now, you joined the Army at 17. Yeah. You're a fifth-generation Australian soldier. You must be so proud of all your ancestors, especially from World War I, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, Chris. Great-great-grandfather gassed twice in World War I, and the sad part is I didn't actually realise that until this year. I actually did a Ancestry.com activity, and my father knew this, but I just hadn't paid attention to it as a kid. And what's been most tremendous is that my grandfather, on my mother's side, he actually passed away just this last December. And he was a veteran of the Korean and Vietnam War, and he's really been a huge motivation behind Voice of a Veteran, Veteran Support Force, and everything that I do now, because he was alive just after the Brereton Report came out. And he is the one who called me up and he said, don't let them do the same thing to your guys that they did to my guys in Vietnam. And that's still something that inspires me today, and I'm so sad he's not here to see where we're at. But having said that, Chris, and I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I'm actually happy that he is not here to see what has occurred over this last year. Yeah,
well said. That's so true, but good on him for putting you in that responsible position that you now hold. Now, when you left the ADF, explain this to me. Am I right in saying that you found yourself working for one of the world's biggest music acts? What a blast.
Yeah, it was very random. I finished my last deployment to Iraq in 2017 and I moved to the US to live with my partner, and a former commando colleague over there runs a security job, and next thing after the Ariana Grande bombing, I found myself with the Black Eyed Peas as a head of security for the UEFA Grand Final in Cardiff. And I have to say, I really don't have any insight into or enthusiasm towards football. So when I told my friends I was there overseeing the opening ceremony for Juventus and Real Madrid and all those people, it sort of lost on me. And then when we were there, the memorial concert in Manchester kicked off. So I found myself there asking people who these people were. They were, the Justin Biebers, the Miley Cyruses and whatnot. But that was such a great insight for me personally to realise so many of those transferable skills that I brought from defence. But, it's definitely a time that I didn't take enough of a moment to savour. It was all sort of work mode.
Now, another thing that many people may not know about you, but you're openly gay. However, you weren't comfortable with being known as gay as a soldier. We would probably understand that. Why?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, Chris, because I really hate labels, and where that comes from is throughout your time in the military, you're constantly judged on your actions and attitudes, your competence and character each and every day. And you're so exposed each and every day to be authentic. Everything is so transparent because you're out there doing these things and you're held accountable to that standard. And even back when I was awarded my Commando Sherwood Green Beret, it always came with this saying, this comes with a daily renewable contract. And I really hated for people to ever think that there was something that was wrong with me, because I thought there was something wrong with myself. And I never wanted anything that could be considered either a negative thing against me or a positive thing against me. When I came back, I spent a year working in the US, 2015, when the gay marriage vote got passed here in Australia. And when I came back to a defence force that was looking for defence members to be on the float in Mardi Gras. And at that time, I was a commando major. I was responsible for running the selection course. And I didn't want anyone thinking that I was having any additional advantage, just given a diversity that I didn't choose, mate. And I tried to train it out of myself.
Right.
Trust me, I tried to conversion therapy myself because I thought something was wrong with me. Right. So no one kept me in the closet, Chris. I kept myself in the closet. And it was once I left the military, once I was no longer responsible for people, because at the same time, as I grew in comfort with my sexuality, the last thing I wanted was any of my soldiers that I'd commanded on combat thinking that I had lied to them or held something back from them. You know, you can imagine how much being in combat with people is so intimately trusting.
Yes.
So, you know, I went through my own scale, and the whole thing was I became comfortable with myself, and now I'm back realising that, you know, it isn't a label. It's me as a requirement to be responsible, to encourage others to feel that they can accept themselves first and foremost, but to never carry anything as an entitlement.
Yeah, one interesting, as you say, we could talk about that forever. There are so many aspects to what you've said that you know, have an impact on those who are considering themselves coming out and maybe a member of the ADF. But politics, are you still planning on running as a candidate in Brisbane for the federal election? Yeah,
Chris, I can actually update you. Yesterday just this week, we got notified by the Australian Electoral Commission. And on Friday, the 3rd of December, the Australian Values Party will commence its public advertising after passing the initial review phase. So,
wow.
Absolutely, Chris. And that comes from this last year of really realising so many of the issues we are facing come from leadership. And the biggest crisis we have in this country, in my opinion, is that of leadership. Leadership that is motivating people through inspiration, as opposed to leaders who control through authority and through fear. And that comes from being professionally trained in leadership and spending this last year meeting with politicians, campaigning for the Royal Commission, realising there are good politicians in Parliament, but they are controlled by parties who are more interested in their own progression as opposed to serving the Australian people. So looking to put together a team, and I have some amazing people who know what it's like to live in a values-based society, to be accountable, to be responsible, and to act with integrity and to keep each other accountable. So we'll be looking to commence our campaigning come January. So
Australian Values Party, and what seat in particular will Heston Russell pop up in?
It's to be determined, Chris. To be honest, it's a conversation at the moment of running for the Senate here in Queensland and being able to put my back into supporting some really great local candidates in some of those federal seats, or looking to apply my energy into a seat to be able to provide that influence in the lower house. So australianvalues.org.au will keep you updated, Chris.
Okay, interesting times ahead. And you've written a kids' book too, one emerging for Christmas about your dog Copper. Is there anything you can't do? Oh, Chris, 2.5 years ago, a little sausage dog named Copper came into my life, and I thought that I knew everything and knew unconditional love. And that little guy has opened up a new chamber to my heart that I never knew was there. And for some reason, I've developed this creative release that is writing children's books that are the adventures of Copper. And he tells a story that you're trying to educate a child in a very indirect method. So that's more of a hobby as opposed to Heston Russell, the author, that's for sure. Let's keep our fingers crossed that real constructive stories and action come out of this Royal Commission, because that's what all your hard work has been about. Heston Russell, thank you so much for your time. All the best. Chris, really appreciate the chat and your support. Thank you, mate.